Successful night in that we did not lose any more land, we did not lose any more structures, and the firefighters in the field are doing a real good job of hitting those hot spots, really starting to engage in what they call creating hash marks, walking each property, putting out stumps, putting out little brush fires, a lot of coordination between law enforcement, the local fire districts, as well as the national resources that have been brought in. I got a couple probably more higher priority things to share, and then what I'm going to do is turn it over to Rich Harvey, the incident commander. He can give more information on specifics as it relates to the fire. We have the National Guard, Colorado's National Guard, to talk a little bit about their resources and some changes there. And then I want to go through some housekeeping issues and some future plans we're working on, both in the very near future as well as looking a few days out. There is still a tremendous amount of activity in there, a lot of work taking place, heavy equipment being moved around, firefighter activity roaming the streets, utilities trying to get in and restore poles that were taken down, and a lot of those sort of things. First, I want to talk about the criminal activity taking place. We have a tremendous amount of resources put in there to patrol and protect those properties that are vacant from vandals and those trying to re-victimize the victims of this fire. So far to date, we've had 4 burglaries, 1 obstruction, which is obstructing law enforcement, which basically insinuates they were in a place they shouldn't have been and they resisted departing. And then we've had 1 case of impersonation, which would be an individual impersonating either law enforcement, another government official, firefighter, those sort of things. So when we look at the vast expansive area that has been evacuated, the number of streets and residents that have been patrolled, confirmation, and it's going to be through dental records, other medical records, which sometimes take time. Identity will be confirmed and released within the next 24 hours. So there has been Sunday, and his people and his staff are working on it, as well as our other experts that we're fortunate to have in the process. I think I will wait and talk about the other housekeeping issues, and I'll turn it over to Rich Harvey, our incident commander, for an update on the actual fire activity.
I hope that's for him. Thank you, Terry. Good job. Good afternoon, yes. Rich Harvey, incident commander for the Black Forest Fire. As Terry said, the crews last night had a good night. Nothing backwards, all forwards. So we're real happy with those guys. The day shift is out, actively engaged. We have not released any of the ground troops yet, and so they're out there doing their thing. So far today, and the night crews, we're going to bump the containment percentage up to 65. And most of that, and I'll step back here for a sec, most of that occurred in this area. So we've held the south for a while now. We're moving up and around here. We're comfortable here. We're comfortable up this side. So the stuff we still got to work on kind of is right in this area. It's not crazy out there, folks. There's not a lot of active flame. There's not a lot of open flames. When I say we got to work on it, we have the lines in. We are starting to secure the lines. We have troops in the subdivisions, in the neighborhoods, on the streets, and they're going house to house, smoke to smoke. They're still in what I call, technical term, search and destroy missions. See smoke, they go get smoke. It's really complicated, but it does take time. There's a lot of smokes out there to get still. Perimeters are starting to be secured, so we're kind of doing a little bit of both at the same time, internal and perimeter control. We hope to continue to keep muddling that forward. We do have, a weather forecast for thunderstorms this afternoon. We're aware of that. We have all our aviation assets in place. Should anything get beyond the troops on the ground, start to get a little bit of heat activity, any kind of movement, we will hit it from the air as well as the ground. So our plan, it's not all that exciting. Mop up smokes, search and destroy, find them where you can, maintain the perimeter, stay alert, stay active, and hydrate. If you're a firefighter, drink lots of water. So that's our plan for the day, and we'll keep you posted.
I'd like to ask Colonel Utterback to come up and address the Colorado National Guard response and the status there.
Thanks, Sheriff. Good afternoon, neighbors. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mitch Utterback from the Colorado National Guard, the military liaison. I like listening to Rich Harvey. He speaks my language, or do I speak his? You can tell from listening to Rich that wildland firefighting is a lot like military operations. That's why you see me and the rest of these people out here. I want to let you know there's been a change in the military air campaign on the Battle of Black Forest. All the military helicopters have been released. As of yesterday, the National Guard Blackhawks were no longer required by the incident commander. So the Colorado, Nebraska, and Wyoming Blackhawks have all returned to base. The pilots and all of us owe a debt of gratitude to the private landowners, the business people, and the property managers that allowed us to use their dip sites. And Fredo and Mike, you guys are just a few of the dozens of people that through their generosity and patriotism allowed those helicopters to use your dip sites. So thank you again, and our community owes those anonymous people a debt of gratitude as well. Those citizens allowed those helicopters to make 1,297 bucket drops, precision bucket drops on the fire. Those helicopter pilots put 889,135 gallons on those flames and saved homes and property. Hell, I'm impressed with that number. The National Guard continues to provide Sheriff Makita with checkpoints. The National Guard is out there under the authority and the direction of the sheriff. Right now, the sheriff has us manning or operating about 20 checkpoints. It changes almost by the hour. The soldiers at those checkpoints are grateful for the citizens that show up and express their gratitude. And the soldiers ask me personally to let you know that when the sheriff gives the order, their checkpoint will go away. But the National Guard is out there at the direction of the sheriff's office, keeping everything safe and preventing unauthorized entry into those neighborhoods. A couple days ago, the sheriff also said he's never seen such rapid response by such a combined group of forces. And I thought about that a little bit, and I realized today that two words summarize how everything got here so fast. And those words are familiarity and decisiveness. Familiarity, because all of us that responded to this thing on Tuesday afternoon knew each other by first name. For the previous 3 weeks, we'd had exercises, tabletops, planning sessions, and meetings. Quite literally, we had, for those of us that didn't wash our clothes, still had the business cards from the previous week in our pockets. So the familiarity with each other was part of it. And then that night, that afternoon, the decisiveness of the Type 3 Incident Commander, Scott Campbell, and his Ops Chief, Peter Wolf. The decisiveness of the Agency Administrator, Brenda Wazalewski from the Division of Fire Prevention and Control, and the decisiveness of Sheriff Makita allowed all this stuff to happen that fast. They came to us and said, can you give us this? We called to our hire. They said yes. Those authorities said, get it in there. So I want you to know that familiarity and decisiveness are the keys to the rapid response on this fire. I also want you to know that I'm speaking for the troops, we really appreciate what I call the victory gauntlet that lines up to say thank you. We're grateful for that stuff. Thanks a lot. The troops wanted me to say thanks for the signs, thanks for the flags, thanks for being there for us. And I want to say a special thanks to the girl last night who gave me a Colorado Strong bracelet. I'm still wearing it, and I will continue to, so as long as we're fighting this thing together. So thanks again, folks. Appreciate it.
Take the glasses off here. I do want to execute a moment of executive privilege since I have the microphones here. And let's remember it is Father's Day. So for all the fathers out there, celebrate this day. Make sure that your wife, kids, you name it, take care of you today. I want to send out my personal thanks to all the fathers. I want to talk a little bit about, we had our first community meeting, and a lot of people are wanting to find out, how did it go? And you got to understand that it is to be expected that there are a lot of tensions that are out there, but that's why you have a community meeting, because you're dealing with raw emotions. I mean, people are naturally, they're scared, they're frustrated because they don't have access to the information that they want real time. And the one thing I don't want to have happen is that people that are feeling that way, that they're kept in isolation. So we are going to continue to try to have multiple meetings to bring people together to let you know that you are not alone in this whole effort. This community is behind you. And what's ironic, as we're having this press conference and I'm looking out over there, I can tell you from a personal standpoint, as a New Lifer, there are a lot of people in my New Life family that are leaning forward. We've got the whole congregation wants you to understand that we are behind you, and we're going to be here for the long haul. That's something that's very important to me, and having just left the service, I can tell you the entire congregation is behind you. With a couple other things I want to talk about, emails and phone calls. I've received hundreds of emails and phone calls, and I just want you to know I am physically incapable of answering all of them, but I want to publicly acknowledge that I have received them. They are going to be screened. I've been given great tips as far as being able to, what type of information that you want, suggestions and people that want to volunteer. But I just want you to publicly know that I have read those emails and still reading them, and the phone calls. That information, I am taking that into consideration as I do my preparation. The one thing I am proud to announce, and we will be issuing a press release today, is we want to be able to now centralize volunteer efforts. A lot of those emails are coming in with people that want to raise their hand and step up and say, hey, I want to volunteer to help out with animal control. I want to volunteer to help out with issues of cleanup. We now have an email address, a centralized email address that we want you to start directing those contacts to, and it's bffvolunteer@elpasoco.com. So please start directing your emails that way if you want to volunteer. And what I would highly recommend, which would be helpful for us, is if there's a specific area that you want to volunteer, put that in the subject line so that we can help do that, because we want to be able to forward these emails to our community partners so that they can start building their support structure. So again, that email address is bffvolunteer@elpasoco.com. The last subject I want to talk about is the phase 1 of the community action team that I am trying to put together. And basically what I'm trying to do is put together a skeletal structure so that I can receive information from you and also provide you with information. The points of contact that I want to hear from, if you are living in an affected area and you are under an HOA, I want to hear from your HOA president or whoever the HOA designates to receive and distribute information. If you are living in an area where you don't have an HOA but you have great parties, neighborhood block parties, somebody send me an email that raise your hand and take leadership there. Either get to the side and have a rock, paper, scissors game or whatever. I need one central point of contact to try to help me out with that, and do the best you can with that. Again, the goal behind this is we want to put together a structure, because once this transition away from a law enforcement structure and process, we want to be able to give you real-time information. So that's the goal. So again, in closing, I'm very optimistic, extremely proud. I keep running into people that are so proud of the firefighters, the sheriff, you name it, and we're going to get together and rebuild and come back stronger. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Heisey, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. I have a few planning things that I'd like to report. We're making progress in making it safe for folks to re-enter the burn area when the time comes. This morning we had 10 teams of building inspectors going out, each one escorted by a law enforcement official. They are looking at the standing structures. They want to make sure there's no structural damage that would prohibit a homeowner from going back inside. They don't want a homeowner to get out there and get inside their home only to have something happen and they would get hurt in that initial look through the house. So we'll be going through the areas as the incident command team and as the sheriff opens up areas for us. We'll be out there inspecting each of those homes that have been damaged but are still standing. We want people to be safe. Tomorrow we'll have our Department of Transportation out there. We have culverts that we want to make sure are safe. There have been reports of actually culverts collapsing and we need to get those replaced. We have wooden bridges out there. We want to make sure it's safe for the public when they are allowed to return. So I just want you to know that the county is working on it. We want to make sure that we are not the limiting factor to you getting back into your house. The health department already has a potable water source set up. It is ready to go, so when you're allowed in, if there's no electricity, so you don't have well water, there will be a place you can drive to, and we'll have buckets on site, containers, they won't be buckets, but water containers on site, so you can fill them up, take them back to your house, so you have some way to have drinking water, wash your hands, those types of things. The health department is also working on setting up a site that is convenient to everybody, somewhere convenient to the Black Forest, to administer tetanus shots. We don't need a tetanus epidemic on top of a disaster. The sheriff has allowed me in there. I've seen places where homes are in fine shape, but outbuildings have been destroyed. I would anticipate that homeowners are probably going to start that cleanup themselves. They may not contract for that. We want to make sure that if you puncture your skin in some manner, just a scrape from a piece of tin, that you're safe and you're not going to be contracting tetanus. So look for those announcements to come out as time goes on. But I want you to know that we're all working to be ready and to keep you safe when you get in there. Our disaster assistance center is open today. It'll be open tomorrow. It'll be open as long as you need us, but feel free to go down there this afternoon because they'll be there until 6 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Are you going to move that north?
The Disaster Assistance Center probably will not move north. What we found with our experience a year ago was after the first week to 10 days, it is used relatively little. So we are probably through the biggest rush of people coming through the next day or two. I don't have current numbers from yesterday, but based on the traffic I saw, we've probably had close to 1,000 people go through there, 1,000 families. So you multiply that times, ever how many people in a family. So probably as we get later into the week, we'll find that our traffic dwindles. So we'll probably leave it right there where we have everybody set up. Specific services that need to be delivered as time goes on, like tetanus shots, like perhaps getting supplies out. We would like to make trash bags and rakes and shovels and some of that kind of stuff available to you. We'll try to find a more convenient spot closer to Black Forest to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Heisey. I was actually going to talk about the activity as I lead into the discussions of getting people in there. But before I talk about that, I want to go ahead and announce right now that following the formal process of this press conference, any citizens that live in the Black Forest area, I'd like for you to meet me over there. I'd like to have a conversation with you one-on-one where we can have a dialogue and answer your specific questions in detail to make it a little clearer. I will ask the media to respect that request. Following that opportunity to talk to citizens, I will come back and do any interviews if there are any requests. You're hearing a lot of talk about getting people home, potable water, those sort of things. I don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse. And I don't want to create a false belief that tomorrow everybody's going home, because that's not going to happen. We have a crime scene in there. We have fire in there. We have down power lines in there. We have trees falling each time there's a gust of wind that are badly damaged. We have heavy equipment, bulldozers, fire trucks, water tankers, constantly moving through those roads. So we're not even close to ready, let alone having the roads inspected. I've seen damage from heat exposure, and then heavy equipment running over them. There's going to be road repairs, bridge repairs, culvert repairs. Power lines are going up as we're speaking. Gas lines are being inspected and tested and checked, and some of those got significant damage. We have a long road here. We've been trying to work with citizens to allow them limited access in emergency situations. I have deputies dedicated to doing nothing but running people in for emergency situations. It is now being abused. People are using that as a means to get in and then refusing to leave. The recommendation of my staff is to stop and halt all emergency accesses, because it's going to create a situation where it's a hazard, it's time consuming, and we will be forced to arrest a victim of this fire. I'm going to put my faith in the citizens and not allow legitimate needs. But it will put me in a situation where if an individual is manipulating a system I've put in place to serve our citizens and refuse to leave, then they will be arrested for obstruction. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to be put in that situation. So I'm going to reach out to our community and ask them to support us. Every minute of the day, myself, my staff, Rich Harvey, everybody standing behind me is working long hours, long days to get people in there. But we're not close. We have a lot of work to do. We have people in there now doing a second screening or assessment of those properties. We're making minor changes. I think an update went out at noon, and we're expecting them to become more rapid. We're seeing some minor changes from what they say green to red, which means total losses, and ones that were labeled as red back to green, but it's a very, very small percentage. There's been a lot of discussions and a lot of frustration with this whole placard concept, and let me tell you where it came from, is during the numerous planning meetings that are taking place, it was suggested that we issue placards to those residents that have a reason to be there. They are property owners. It was suggested that those placards, or assumed that they would be ready for pickup. That was only an idea in a planning meeting. And it got out and it created frustration because people went to the Disaster Recovery Center. They've been calling the EOC, the Joint Information Center. They know nothing about it. But we are planning and moving forward. And when we have those plans in place and we're ready to execute, we will have an orderly system to get that information out, as well as those placards or whatever form of identification we decide to use. The residents of Black Forest will have the first opportunity to go in before any members of the public. Not only will you have the opportunity to go in, but the fire districts, chief are going to need to be prepared to go in with you and assist you, whether you want to get into your building, the remains of it, whether you want to sift and look for personal things that you may be able to salvage. We've got to have fire people on site. We've got to have medical personnel on site. We want to make sure we have law enforcement in there with you. And it takes coordination to do that. And that is once the scenes have been declared safe to enter by our Type 1 management team. Hundreds of years of experience are reviewing it. They're getting feedback directly from the people that are walking on the fire, and it's their recommendation when we can start executing this. The sooner the better is the way we're looking at it. But there are a lot of things that have to be done before we can do that. We can't just drop roadblocks and let everybody run in. That would be reckless and it would be irresponsible. The evacuation status, as you know, we are closing down the perimeter at every opportunity we can. Last night, yesterday evening, we released some more area from mandatory evacuation to pre-evacuation. The return of those people to their homes went very smoothly. I didn't hear of any major concerns, and we were able to open traffic on 83 North and South. My hope is that kind of helps alleviate the cone zone congestion on I-25, although I hope it doesn't all shift over to there. I don't anticipate any major evacuation releases today. We are working on the southwest corner of our evacuation zone. The areas off Burgess and only those properties that can be accessed off Burgess. We still cannot put traffic on Shoup. That determination has not been made. There are meetings taking place probably while Rich Harvey and I are here speaking. When we get back, we'll get a briefing, look at the logistics of it, and execute the plan and then notify the public. I know it affects just a small amount of people, but that is the next step forward for us as far as evacuations. There's a lot of discussion going back to this placard thing about site visits and that process. We don't have one area within the red up there yet that our fire experts, our Type 1 leadership, the operations folks feel comfortable today to clear, whether it's 1 street or 3 streets, to allow people in to access those properties yet. Some of those that are starting to cool down that we do feel the most comfortable with are adjacent to what I consider a crime scene until proven otherwise. So I'm not real anxious to get people in there yet. And I want to stress it. This is a crime scene until proven otherwise. And I am not going to compromise the investigation or any evidence at the risk of letting people in too soon. I'm asking for your cooperation on that. We are developing a process by which we will be taking people in smaller groups. We'll be giving them time to spend at their property, whether they just want to look at it and leave, or they want to spend some time and have the privacy there. We plan to have fire district representatives there to support and assist. We're going to have a strike team there in case you start digging around and there's a hot spot, and we'll be working with heavy rescue personnel. All this takes coordination, and we will pull the trigger once we get the clearance based on safety standards that have been met that we can go in. So there are things happening, and I don't want people to get this false sense of security because they look up there and they don't see a plume of smoke. It's still not safe. I think most importantly, and I'd like to end this on a very positive note, is as of noon today, all missing persons are accounted for. And we have no further loss of life. And so what I'll do is take a few questions and I'll direct it to whoever the expert is, and we'll start right here.
Do you have a general assessment of your reverse notification, your reverse 911 system, how effective it was, and did the fatalities receive a call or not?
The question was, have we had a chance to look at the reverse 911 geocast for emergency notification, and did the individuals, the victims, receive a call? The individuals, first of all, I have not had a chance to even begin to look at it. It was a dynamic situation where a fire flared up immediately, got caught by winds that came out of nowhere, and blew through a large area. The individuals that were in knew there was an evacuation. They had gone into the area to retrieve property, and they waited a little too long. I can't say whether they were notified, but they saw it coming and they talked about it coming, and they were trying to save property.
Sheriff, can you talk a little more about the impersonation of one person arrested for the impersonation charge?
No, I don't. The question is, can I talk more about the one person arrested for the impersonation charge? No, I can't. I don't have the details. I just look at the stats of it.
Impersonating a firefighter or law enforcement?
I said I don't have the details.
Thank you.
Do you have details on, we've been hearing reports that perhaps a taxi crashed through a barricade 13. Have you heard that?
The question is something about a taxi crashing through a barricade. I have no information on that.
Has anything changed about what you believe is the point of origin as you look for clues?
No, but very good question. The question was, has anything changed with the point of origin? No, we are actually zeroing in on the point of origin, and I meant to actually talk about the investigative part of that. We have called in some extra experts and support from ATF and the state. We've assembled basically a task force to really dive into this and use the latest technology to try to determine and pinpoint the point of origin, as well as collect any evidence that may be available. And when I say evidence, it gets so delicate that not only are you sifting through every particle of dirt on the ground, but you're even trying to remove roots and so forth. So it is a time-consuming process. It has far expanded beyond just my arson investigator. We have brought experts in to give us the greatest possible chance to not only determine the cause, but whether there was criminal intent or not. I'll take one more question.
Sheriff, do you know the fate of the businesses in Black Forest and how many were destroyed by the fire?
The question is, do I have an idea of the number of businesses that were destroyed in the fire? You know, in that area, it's kind of hard to get your hands around. We have kind of little pockets of commercial area. There was very little impact to those, but I'm sure there's numerous people that run businesses out of their homes. And there are some of those that are severely damaged. We've come across properties where there was indications that the individual worked out of his home, and we were able to confirm it. So I don't have a good number of comparison, but I can say areas that are clearly identified as what I would consider a commercial area, those seem to be pretty well intact, including our educational institutions, the community center, the pinery, places like that are intact, and I'm not aware of any specific damage to them.
Comment on assistance to business people.
Sure.
At the Disaster Assistance Center, the Small Business Development Center is set up there. They do have some funds available to help these folks that are impacted, because we, like the sheriff said, we expect many people to have been running a business out of their home. And so they have a table there, it's manned, they're ready, and they do have some funds.
Colonel, may I ask you, just because it's an editing thing, can you show us your bracelet when you, or come over to the mic?
This is my Colorado Strong bracelet that a young lady gave to me last night at the incident command post, where hundreds of our citizens are doing what I call the victory gauntlet for us. Thanks. Please accept this Colorado Strong bracelet as a gift from me. I told her, I said I'll wear it the whole time. Thanks for asking.
Okay, as has been with every press conference, there'll be people around that'll be willing to answer any questions one-on-one. And if I could ask our citizens from Black Forest to meet me over here, I'll be happy to answer your questions before doing any more interviews. Thank you, everyone.